What's going on, guys? It's your boy John the Liquidator coming back with a big time story. So it looked like WNBA executives and pretty much the people that run in the league is not disclosing any information from that latest proposal. Now we're about 24 hours away from having somewhat of clarity about what is about to happen with the 2026 season. Now, this is an article that has come out from Sports Business Journal detailing us the current state of where everything stands. Now, we know that a proposal came out, I believe, Saturday or Friday night, one of the two. And normally we get an idea of what was in those proposals. Did they make any changes for revenue sharing, contracts? We don't know anything. It's been reported that regarding proposal traded this weekend, details was undisclosed. I have yet to see anything published with new CBA details from WNBA/WNBPA. Could this be a good thing? Now, shout out to Van Shea. Let's dive into this article right now just to kind of get an idea of what is going on before we hear the latest from Annie Costable regarding this situation, man. So this article came out today. It stated the WNBPA and WNBA exchanged counter proposal within 24 hours of each other, covered the weekend sudden urgency that mean Tuesday artificial deadline. So they already look, artificial was telling me that this might not even be the real deadline tomorrow to make a deal. And isn't it artificial after all? The league had told Union on February 23rd the WNBA season schedule may be affected if a deal isn't signed by March the 10th, which is tomorrow. At first, the Union balked at the threat because the league had earlier taken 6 weeks to respond to a pre-Christmas request for a 30% revenue share. But on Friday night, the Union decimated a new proposal that the league answered swiftly. Saturday night details were undisclosed. Either way, 2 core issues are clear. As the sides head into this week, the union won't budge on a pre-serving league funded housing for players, and the league similarly won't give the players more than 15% of shared revenue of the pie. As a result, the negotiations will need to get creative prior to this weekend. The proposal the union has requested for housing for all players in the first few years of the agreement, and then in the later years, not for players who are earning roughly 75% of max salary. The league pre-weekend proposal had been housing for all players in the 2026, except for rookies. Now, Annie Costable has been someone that has been very vocal about this entire situation. I am here to tell you, she dropped another video on her site, and this is
addition. A main sticking point with that tension was whether or not a strike was still the best step forward for the union to take. Now, what's important to recognize when that comes up is that the union has not announced it will strike. They voted in December as a collective to authorize a strike. What that means is that the union's executive committee now has the power to call a strike if they deem necessary. What's also important to acknowledge in that conversation is that prior to calling a strike, the executive committee would have very lengthy, detailed discussion once again with its members before any step was taken. However, that strike authorization vote that was near unanimous, sources have indicated fewer players are in alignment than were in alignment in December. What followed that meeting was a letter signed by nearly a dozen prominent agents representing players of varying standings in the league, from some of the top players in the league to middle tier players, etc. These are some of the most experienced agents, not only in women's basketball, but in sports, period. They come with a lot of knowledge, a lot of insight, and just detailed understanding of not only negotiations, but the legalities and terms within contracts that, like the one being negotiated between the WNBA and the WNBPA. So this letter, signed by nearly a dozen of those agents, was sent to WNBPA Executive Director Terry Carmichael Jackson. And the letter, in summation, was requesting access to the league's latest proposals in an attempt to best serve their clients and help in any way possible. So that collection of nearly a dozen agents sent that letter to WNBPA Executive Director Terry Carmichael Jackson on Thursday. On Friday, the union submitted its latest counter proposal to the league, which the league followed up with another counter proposal on Sunday. So at this current state, the league is waiting for a counter proposal from the union. Now, the media learned of this counter proposal during availability with players at Unrivaled semifinals games at Barclays in New York City. In addition to learning about this counter proposal sent from the league, which included minimal changes, the players spoke about where they stand on a strike. Notably, Kelsey Plum said that a strike would be bad for the union and the league. Also notable to that is the number of players who agreed with her. Now, I think up until this point, the language that was coming out of the union was very staunch in it doing whatever was necessary to get a deal done, including striking if necessary. But the language around all of that alluded to an idea or a sense that a strike could be imminent. A strike was something that was more likely than not, based again on the language that was coming out of the union. That was some people's assumptions. And when I say some people's, sources have told me that there was a belief that a strike was something that union leadership was adamant needed to be pursued. Now, that has come into question because Kelsey Plum's statements on the record, again, are in direct kind of misalignment with that messaging. When you have a member of the executive committee saying a strike would be bad for the league and for the union, that forces the union to address the disconnect, because now you have a player whose tone has changed in regards to the strike, whose tone has changed publicly regarding the strike. So following that media availability with players like Kelsey Plum, Breanna Stewart, Paige Beckers, and others who, again, were in town with Unrivaled at Barclays for the semifinals games, a letter was leaked to ESPN that Breanna Stewart and Kelsey Plum had sent to Executive Director Terry Carmichael Jackson. Their letter directly called out communication issues and handlings of negotiations up until this point. So when you have two executive committee members directly calling out union leadership, regardless of how anyone else feels, regardless of if these are the only two players who feel this way, that is not something you can ignore. These are two of the leading voices, not only in the league, these are two of the leading voices, not only within the union, but within the league at large. And anytime players of that caliber speak, attention must be paid. And their assertion, again, was that they were speaking on behalf of other players who feel the same way and haven't felt comfortable enough to speak up about it themselves. So this letter leaks to ESPN, which requires acknowledgement, and that is how I ended up at the WNBPA's office to speak with Terry Carmichael Jackson, again, about the state of the union, where things stand, and where things go from here. Because at this point in negotiations, we are 5 days out from this target date when the league has asserted.
Now, tomorrow is the date that hopefully we get some clarity. But as of right now, it is not looking good for the WNBA, guys. Get down in the comment section. Let me know y'all thoughts about this one. Keep them bells on. I will be back with more content. And until next time, man, shake the haters off. I'm out of here. Peace out.